Hi, everyone. I would like to continue our study of Emily Dickinson by having us look at a very important central feature that dominates her world and her work, and also dominates our lives. And that is trying to figure out who we are. Let me just tell you, as a person who's pretty old, I'm very old right now. Um, it it's you're still figuring it out. I'm suddenly doing things I didn't know I could do or had never really tried doing in the past or never really wanted to. And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, I think I really should play tennis, which is something I just took up, maybe 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years ago. Um, I never did that when I was younger. Never occurred to me. I didn't like any sports stuff. I really didn't do much of that kind of stuff at all. And out of nowhere, suddenly I realized, wait a minute, what's been holding me back? Um, you would think that being in my 60s would have given me some real understanding of who I was, or being 60. And yet I didn't know that I wanted to play tennis. Didn't know that I wanted to do sports. I didn't know that before. And I find it astonishing that I didn't, because I love it. I love playing tennis. And I'm not bad. I mean, I'm not a great player, but maybe I could have been. I don't know. But I wasn't ready for it before. But now I play tennis. And that has opened up a whole other world for me as well. And I often say, one of my favorite phrases, apparently, because my daughter says I say it a lot, and that is, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know. So I think throughout our lives, we're still exploring our most interesting subject and our most interesting topic, and that is our own lives. Of course, that's going to be the most interesting thing to us. Everything connects to it. Even when we're thinking about transcendent ideas, the universe, God, luck, blessings, anything we think about, curses, we're thinking about it with our own brains. So we cannot escape our own minds. We cannot escape our own selves ever. People try different ways to sort of anesthetize the brain. Alcohol is one of those ways people use. But no matter what, you're still you. I had the good fortune of going around the country portraying Emily Dickinson. I wrote a play. It's called The Passion for Life. And it's a one-woman play, and I portray Emily Dickinson. And I portray her as an older woman, just a few years before she died, in her early 50s. And I'll tell you something that happened when I first started doing it. And I'm not an actress, never was an actress. I just kind of started doing this maybe 15 years ago. What happens is, when you take on the external garb of someone else, and in my case, that would be Emily Dickinson. So I put on the white dress that we know she had. I put on an exact replica of it. I get a wig. I don't really look like me. My husband has a very hard time watching me do the play, because it just kind of freaks him out, because I'm really not me. And I'll tell you something that happens, and those of you who are actors understand this. For the amount of time you are portraying someone else, you are not you. And there's a tremendous relief in that, because you don't have to be saddled with the you-ness of it all. What you are is somebody else just for that brief time. And as I said, I've never been an actress, but now I kind of am. And I get it. I get why people one of the many reasons why people so love doing that. Part of it is you hear the phrase because you lose yourself in a character. Often when we read, we lose ourselves in the characters that we're reading. We kind of become what's going on the page. The same happens in film when we're watching film. Emily Dickinson explored that idea of self a lot. And one of the questions that she has is, how do I get out of being me? I'm really tired of being me. And I know you felt this way because we all feel this way. It's very universal. But here she has a poem about that. And in this poem, she writes, "Me from myself to banish, had I art. I wish I could. Impregnable my fortress unto all heart. But since myself assault me, how have I peace, except by subjugating consciousness? And since we're mutual monarch, how this be, except by abdication, me of me? I can't ever get out of the meanness of myself. And sometimes I put myself down," she says, well, she doesn't say that, but how I assault myself. How do I get away from that? And sadly, her answer is we can't. Like subjugation, me of me. Like she uses it as a monarch and subjects, but we're equal. Which one is a monarch? Which one is a subject if it's all just about me? I can't. Sadly, as in many other Dickinson poems, she does not give us an answer. But I really think that looking at the question and understanding that this is a universal condition that she was talking about in the 1860s, perhaps, 1850s. We don't have an exact date, of course, but think in the 1860s. It's a universal. And there's something very powerful about knowing that other people feel this way and that there's no easy answer. So if you've struggled with it and haven't found an easy answer, you're not alone. This is universal. This is another poem about self and figuring self out and feeling kind of left back a bit. A gentian, by the way, is a little blue flower. It's kind of a purpley blue flower that lays close to the ground, very, very, very short. And it doesn't bloom until usually in late September or early October, certainly in New England where she lived. It needs cold weather actually to bloom. And I can tell you that there are, of course, flowers that bloom at their own rate. I have a crepe myrtle tree, and I don't know if you know what a crepe myrtle tree is, but they're quite beautiful. They're quite beautiful. And it just kind of hangs out doing just green tree things throughout most of the summer. And it looks down on my garden, sees the roses doing rose things and sees daisies doing daisy things. And it just kind of hangs out, just doing green leaf things. And then when everything else in the garden is starting to look a little bit tired and brown in August, late August, the crepe myrtle suddenly blooms. And when it blooms, it's this violent blooming, sudden blooming of these pink flowers, just tons of them all over the tree. And they're different kinds of crepe myrtle colors. Some are bright fuchsia kind of colors. Some of them are just sort of soft pink. But they don't bloom until the end of the summer, where everything else has stopped blooming. I somehow identify with that crepe myrtle tree. I feel like sometimes a lot of parts of me really didn't bloom until later. Everybody else was capable of doing this or that. And I just didn't quite get this or that. But then all of a sudden I did. I kind of feel like a crepe myrtle sometimes, don't you? Well, she's looking at a gentian in the same way. Gentian is, again, that tiny flower. God made a little gentian. It tried to be a rose and failed. And all the summer laughed. But just before the snows, there rose a purple creature that ravished all the hill. And summer hid her forehead. Ugh. And mockery was still. The frosts were her condition. The Tyrian would not come until the north invoke it. Creator, shall I bloom? So, on the one hand, we're looking at a poem about kind of being a late bloomer. We know what that is. And wondering what conditions need to be right for me to bloom. On the other hand, she's also looking at this gentian, and she's saying that the frost, cold, were her condition. And maybe she's looking at things and thinking, maybe now that things are bad, are cold, are difficult in my world, maybe now I'll bloom. Maybe somehow now I'll see the fullness of who I am. I don't know that for a fact, certainly, but it's interesting, isn't it? I love how she says, there rose a purple creature, because she's using the word rose from up here. And she's using it, of course, differently. I told you, she likes to play with words. Poets do that. Writers do that. We all do that. Comedians do that. I've been watching comedians lately, needing to laugh a bit, as we all do. And I love the way they play with words and play with ideas, the good ones. So, have you bloomed? And what parts of you have bloomed? And what parts are there still to bloom? As I said, I'm old and I'm just discovering new parts that are blooming. I just published my first non-academic book, a memoir, this past August. Who knew that was going to happen? I didn't. Not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, not 3 years ago when I kind of started it. That part of me apparently hadn't really bloomed until just now. What about you? Think about it. Bye.